I am going to talk a little basketball now. I'm admittedly going to refrain from too much analysis and insight. I have not had a chance to fully watch the A&M UCF game just yet. I did watch pockets and I did watch stretches of this game. And look, mixed emotions, because you go on the road against a legit home environment against a team that is not, they came into Austin and beat Texas last year. I think they beat them at home last year, if I'm not mistaken, too. Did they sweep Texas in the Big 12? They might have. But, Johnny Dawkins is a really good coach. They beat Texas on the road. I'm just looking at their schedule from last year real quick. They beat Texas Tech at home, Oklahoma State on the road. They were pretty bad. They beat Oklahoma at home. So they beat Kansas. They beat Kansas last year. I forgot about that. So they can make some noise, and there's a chance UCF ends up being relatively decent this year. So we'll have to kind of wait and see as to determining how much that this looks like a good loss, an acceptable loss, or a bad loss. You remember Memphis last year at the time A&M lost to Memphis looked pretty good, or not terrible. And then by the time the tournament came around, that was a drag. Same with Ohio State. That was the opposite. Ohio State, they win at Ohio State. That looked like a pretty decent win for a while. And then the Buckeyes started to fall off a little bit. So that was a little tale of two seasons there, or tale of two resumes, if you will. So wait and see what UCF turns into. But the biggest thing for me is they did obviously struggle to close this game out. They got off to the hot start, which is something that was encouraging, because that has been a theme with Buzz Williams, not just at A&M, but across the board, is teams traditionally struggle out of the gate and struggle with the non-conference because they do so much like chemistry building that isn't super basketball specific, to where sometimes on the court it can maybe take a little bit extra time to translate. But you saw them kind of get off to the run, game tightens up, and then they get off to that run once again. Wade Taylor hits that logo three. You're thinking, okay, they've got their rhythm. They're up by, let's see, I'm looking to see kind of what the most emphatic lead they had was. They were up by 11 with 6:24, and then that's when UCF starts to chip away. I think the biggest thing for this team is and has been the scoring droughts throughout Buzz Williams' tenure. It's sort of, analytically, I think it's the balance of analytically, you want the most efficient shot that has the most efficient output in terms of points per possession, expected points per, attempt, and all that stuff. But then you can do that and have a lull to where, especially on the road, like I use this analogy. Would you rather have a shot that is, and this isn't necessarily, this is more a deep meta analysis of the A&M philosophy rather than this game specifically. But again, I got to go back and watch the whole thing, see just how it played out within the flow of it. But like I always say, would you rather have a 33% 3-point shot where you do the math and that is like 1.5 points? You do 3 possessions, that's 3 points. Or would you rather have a 33% 3-point shot is equal to a 50% 2-point shot? That's what I'm saying. Or would you rather have a 44% look from 2, 45% look from 2? I know the math says to take the 3, and over time that adds up, but I do feel like in college basketball, especially with the possessions on the road, there is something to be said for avoiding lulls and droughts and seeing the score consistently tick up, and maybe the rate at which it does can fluctuate, but you don't want to get to a position where you're just stuck, because then I think those 33% looks that should be 33% maybe drop down a little bit, and some of those 2-point shots that should be easier fall down because you're out of rhythm, you're out of confidence, and that sort of thing. It's kind of hard to quantify that, but that's always been a belief of mine. So that that turned out to be a big drag for A&M in that second half when they go. And I know there was, I think, a contested goaltend that some people think, but you had 60 points with 4 minutes to go in the game, and you end the game with 61 points. That's where I'm saying I would like to see ways to be able to avoid that. Not that they're not trying. I know they are, but that's something we've seen these teams struggle with at times. And then the other thing is a mixed bag for me. I want to see the problem last year with that team at times was if you're getting 20, 25 points from Wade Taylor and you're getting another 15 points from Tyrese Radford, maybe that's 40 points between those guys. And then maybe Henry Coleman can give you 10 points, although he was a little off last year, just banged up and stuff. And that puts you at 50 points. And then you've got to kind of scrounge around for maybe, a few from Jace Carter, a few from Anderson Garcia, a few from Solomon Washington. And if you need to get a game into the mid-high 70s, 80s, it can be tough to get there. Mixed bag in this sense, in that 61 points, which isn't terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. Wade Taylor only gives you 13. Pharrell Payne gives you 15, so that's good. He was really efficient, though, 6 for 9. Now, beyond that, there was a solid mixture of guys with, Solomon Washington. I mean, literally, go down the list. Solomon Washington, Jace Carter, Henry Coleman, and C.J. Wilcher all gave you 6 or more points. And then you got points from everyone who played except for Hayden Hefner. So that is somewhat encouraging in that you have maybe a variety of options there who can Jace Carter go off for double digits. Like if all those guys are able to go for double digits on any given night, that's really good. But then the downside, you're still asking a lot from Wade Taylor, and that leads to maybe high output nights, but inefficient nights, 4 for 11 from 3, which isn't terrible, but 4 for 15 from the field, which is not, 0 for 4 from 2. Let's just think of it that way. 0 for 4 from 2, 13 points. Pharrell Payne was really the only guy who had high output, high efficiency with the 15 points. And then, Manny Obaski, I think, is the one, only 1 for 3 in 15 minutes. So I'm not going to sound the alarm too much, but he's a guy based on how he played at the end of last year. I think best case scenario for this team, Manny Obaski proves to be the kind of guy who can give you that baseline of 10 points and then maybe go up to 15, 20 points on his night. We only saw 2 from him in 15 minutes. We'll see if that adjusts over the course of the season. Really, Jace Carter got those minutes that you would have from a guy just able to be on the floor to score that much. Jace Carter, 2 for 6, 1 for 2, 2 for 4 from the free throw line. So 7 points, not by no means like their biggest problem on the night, but that was a struggle. 3-point shooting was okay, 7 for 23, but the overall from the floor, 36%. Free throws, they had 14 free throws. We know how much they love to pride themselves on getting to the line more. That was also really the game defensively. You allow 31 free throws to 14 for you. You still double up in offensive rebounds, but gotta prevent them from getting to the line, and just have to have a lot of reliable options. Hayden Hefner, if he can be a legit 3-point shooter, they could be pretty nice. I'm not saying it all hinges on him, but that's going to be a big factor. But 0 for 3, and one of them was desperation at the end, but not desperation 3, but kind of a flurry at the end. But 0 for 3, we'll see if he can get it together. If he can get rolling, Manny Obaski can step up. Jace Carter can, reliably get you 8 points or so a game. Solomon Washington can kind of do what he did, 6 points, 6 rebounds, 9 rebounds, but 3 for 10. If he can maybe do that without with being a little more efficient, I think this team can be okay. But they fall 64-61 to UCF, and the ladies, oh boy, the ladies fall 62-56 to A&M Corpus Christi. This was just a brutal night. 3 of 25 shooting from 3 for the A&M women's basketball team. And I think there's a lot of concern for me moving forward. But as much as some of my concerns are defensively, there were a lot of warning signs as well. This was head coach Joni Taylor after the game, along with Lauren Ware, discussing some of those problems for Texas A&M against A&M Corpus Christi.
It's what I don't want to say I'm not shocked, but it's what we talked about a couple weeks ago, just in terms of not being where we needed to be on either side of the ball. And both things showed up tonight. We weren't really good offensively. We weren't really good defensively either. Knew our defense was behind, and that's our calling card. So I look at the stat sheet, and there's not a quarter where we hold our opponent in single digits, and that's something that we, normally pride ourselves in. So we got a lot of work to do. We've been telling our team that. It's unfortunate that they learned that lesson in this kind of way. Let's give Royce credit. They came out and attacked us from tip. This team was an NCAA tournament team last year, and they came out with that type of confidence. And we just continued to, even when we got the lead, turn it over, not get a rebound, not box out, not get checked up. We just have a lot of work to do.
A lot of adjustments are on the defensive side of the ball. And most of it is like really simple principles that like you learn in like grade school. I think it's just like not being under your man, jumping to the ball, like easy things that are easy fixes. So I think we're going to make those changes. And I know tomorrow in practice that we're going to work on all those things that we need to work on.
So that was after the game Monday, after falling 62-56 A&M Corpus Christi. Just a few other things scanning here. Defensively is interesting because I didn't think they played terribly. 15 turnovers forced. Held them to 41% from the field, 31% from three. Those are fine numbers, but I think as Joni Taylor mentioned, just like we talked about on the men's side, never really had A&M Corpus Christi in a position where they just went in a rut to where they couldn't get out of it. And relative to your competition, even though, as she mentioned, they were a tournament team, less than maybe you would like to do. I mean, let's just be honest. You should be winning this game on paper by like at least 20 points, maybe 25, 30, if you're really going to be a player in the SEC. And then my concern too is like offensively, they just lost so much between India Rogers. She graduated, but India Rogers, I'm going to forget some people, but KK Green, you had Michaela Johnson. You had Janiah Barker, obviously. Tanea Hilton, Sylvia Bowles, Sydney Bowles, excuse me. So they lost a lot, and they did not really bring in a lot of comparable offense that we saw. They basically have, Sahara Jones, Lauren Ware is back along with Aisha Coulibaly, who hurt her hand in this game. Update is really no update as of Tuesday. Still getting it looked at, but doesn't sound like it's super serious, which is maybe a little bit of good news there. She's probably your most dynamic, versatile player on both sides, along with Lauren Ware. But Sahara Jones, Aisha Coulibaly, Lauren Ware, Jada Malone back from injury. She actually looks pretty good, I will say. And then Soleil Williams is a girl who, a young lady who really kind of seemed like she was stepping into her own at times as a freshman, who hopefully you could see take that big step. And she knocked down a couple threes, 2 for 8. So she wasn't great efficiency wise, but maybe something to build on there. But really, Kendall Hunter is another one who's back from an injury. So I thought she looked good running the offense at times. Turned the ball over a little too much, but something you could hopefully build off there. Transfer from Texas, who suffered an injury before last season. Erica Moon also, I believe, coming back from injury as well. So kind of a tough start to the week, tough week in general, as we said, for A&M athletics, A&M basketball, men and women, agonizing defeats for different reasons. And up next let me take a look at what is coming up next for both these teams. They both, of course, will play again this weekend while football is off. The women are at home tomorrow, 11 a.m. against UTSA. On Thursday, I should say, depending on when you're watching this. And then the men, the men are at home on Friday against A&M Commerce. I saw Kentucky on the schedule. My heart jumped, but that was volleyball. So we'll see. The men should be able to bounce back against A&M Commerce, as should the ladies against UTSA. But just kind of things to monitor as we work through the year. And the women also, by the way, at home against Western Michigan on Sunday. So that is the state of Aggie sports on this Wednesday, November 6th. We appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't already, like the video down here, I think, and subscribe. That should be like right here or something. And let us know what you like to see, what you enjoy about the show. Keep the conversation going. What did you think about the college football playoff rankings? Do you like where A&M is positioned? Does it really not matter at this point to you? Are you worried about A&M getting boxed out if they go 10-3 and they make it to the SEC championship game, but they do lose? If that's going to potentially hurt them, or is there no situation where they're leaving an SEC finalist out? I doubt it, but I don't know. I guess crazier stuff can happen, and would have maybe preferred to see not only teams A&M ahead of some teams, but just getting anxiety seeing the path that these teams ahead of A&M have in terms of being able to, avoid some losses maybe, and just the schedule lining up in their favor. But let us know what you think. All in Aggies, Ben Peck here. We will see you back here next time.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.